Hey everybody, my next guest is a true veteran of stand-up comedy. You've seen him on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. He's been with David Letterman, HBO, Showtime. He's toured the world alongside his good buddy Jerry Seinfeld and written for hit sitcoms like Mad About You and Empty Nest. And his book, Why Not? Lessons on Comedy, Courage, and Chutzpah is available now. You can find it on Amazon and wherever books are sold. And here he is, the one and only Mark Schiff. Mark, how you doing, sir?
Good. First of all, thank you for having me. Second of all, you said the word chutzpah. I can tell right away I'm not talking to a Jew. I'm talking to a non-Jew who never spoke yet. So it's chutzpah. Give it a shot.
Chutzpah.
Okay.
Chutzpah.
Okay. Yeah. So if you were trying to become a spy and you said that word pretending you were Jewish, they would have shot you right on the spot.
Yeah,
Right
it
in
was
the
be
middle-
like the Tarantino with the
yeah,
three.
right here, right in the middle of the head, you would have taken the big bang.
They would have
So
known.
they would have known. Yeah.
This-
So, yes. So here we are. I like the name of your podcast too. Conversations. It's
Yes,
nice.
yeah, appreciate that, man. They're talking about chutzpah. How important is it to have chutzpah in life in general?
It's one of the major ingredients in life is to have a set of gonads where you're not, especially listen, in show business as a stand-up, if you don't have a set of nuts on you, you know, and it's like Seinfeld said, we just did Caesars this last weekend. We
Right,
were
yeah.
just there, and there's 3,000 people each show. If you don't think you're the funniest person in the room when you go in front of 3,000 people, then you better not step out there,
Right, yeah.
right? I
You,
mean,
you have to have that.
without being arrogant.
Right. Yeah, it's confident. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
But you need a set of nuts on you, to do certain things in life.
I agree. And I think, chutzpah or moxie or having balls or confidence or I
Yeah,
think it's important in everything in life, but especially comedy, because as you know better than anyone, that once you get out on that stage, it's takes a lot of guts, man.
it does. And some nights when it's not going great, which can happen to anybody, it takes a little more courage and to stick it out while they're firing back at you that we don't think it's funny.
Exactly. Exactly. And with you, so from what I understand, very similar to a lot of us in the who got influenced by comedy. It happened at a young age for you. What, you're like
12.
12 years old, yeah. And what was it, Rodney Dangerfield or something? Take me through the first time when you realized that you fell in love with the art form.
So I lived in Forest Hills. My parents, I grew up in a one-bedroom apartment. My parents never, ever, they're both gone, never lived in anything but a one-bedroom apartment.
Wow,
They, they,
yeah.
they never lived in even a two-bedroom, and forget about a house. And they're probably only into five houses to visit people their whole life. But that aside, my parents had their anniversary. I was 12 years old. I'm an only child, and they took me everywhere. And they took me to a place called the Boulevard Nightclub on Queens Boulevard, a little past Rico Park. And there was a singer headlining named Al Martino, an Italian singer. He was actually the same guy who was in The Godfather. He played the Frank Sinatra role
Right,
in
yeah.
Godfather, Al Martino.
You can act like a man. What's the matter with you?
And before he went on to close the show, they introduced a comedian. I never heard of this guy. Rodney Dangerfield came out with a little suit and a red tie. And my God, he started getting these laughs. I'd never heard anything like this in my life. People were banging, screaming, including my parents. They were beside themselves. And he was doing jokes about marriage. I'm 12. And I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm laughing. There was one joke I remember, and I reminded Rodney. He said, I'll tell you, it's rough. My wife is like a car. Sometimes I can't get her to turn over in the morning. Yeah, I have no idea what that means, but my parents do.
I was out driving my wife the other day. She told me she was going to make a U-turn. I'll tell you the letter she made. You'll never find any alphabet.
And I think the combination of him the audience and watching my parents having the best time it seemed like they ever had. I said, and I had an epiphany. I said, that's it. This is what I want to do. I'm going to become a comedian. And that's all I started with. And I just closed with Jerry at Caesars this weekend. So I went from a little dream at 12 to playing the Coliseum at Caesars.
God bless, man. You never know where life's going to take you, when that spark's going to come. And when you see Rodney, like, most of us, the first time everyone's seen Rodney for the first time once, right? I think he's always blows everybody away. And like you said, there's a rhythm to him where if you are too young to get the jokes, you still know where the jokes are.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. He was the perfect one-line comedian. He was the greatest comedian ever to do the Tonight Show.
Yes, on the couch too. Yeah, when
He was so perfect. He come out, does his jokes, then he sits down, and then when he's done with the jokes, he stops. You've never seen Rodney talk about anything on the panel other than jokes. He never revealed one. He never for a second said, "Yeah, I went to nothing." There was no talking, just joke, joke, joke. And then he looks at Johnny and goes, "All right, Johnny, I'm out. Who's next?" He didn't want to chat.
he was the best.
Oh, weird. I tell you, Johnny, life isn't easy. Not easy
It's
life.
tough,
You
tough
know
life.
that. Tough life. Today's been a terrible day, too.
Has it really?
Got up this morning, picked up my shirt, a button fell off. Picked my briefcase, the handle fell off. I'm afraid to go to the bathroom.
He was the
But
best.
off stage, by the way, he was a very philosophical about life, filled with wisdom, and he could really sit and talk with you, but not in front of the cameras.
Yeah, because I think that's smart too. I think sometimes if you let them know who you are, like when you're somebody like Rodney, and all of us, like I think that's that same way with a lot of great actors, that they shouldn't do interviews because we don't want to know. Because then I think you could almost see through the character and see
Yeah,
the.
that's right.
Now, if you've gotten to know Rodney through the years of your career, did he ever give you any insightful moments?
Yeah, he took me under his wing, actually. I got to know him pretty good. I'll tell you two quick things. Um, Rodney had done a Tonight Show. We all got to know him a little. In fact, Seinfeld, a guy, Steve Middleman, the great comedian, and
Yeah.
myself in like 1980, we were all in California. We decided to drive in Jerry's Fiat. He had a little four-seater Fiat with no air conditioning across the desert to go to Las Vegas, which none of us had ever really been to go see Rodney Dangerfield. And we drive, it's 120 degrees out, and we're in this little Fiat with the windows open. It was unbelievable. And none of us complained because we had a mission and we were in our late 20s, and you don't complain. We
Right.
get
Yeah.
to Vegas and we have no money, really. We have a couple of bucks each, including Jerry. None of us had money. And we go to where Rodney's playing. We go up to the maitre d' stand. And the guy says, "Can I help you boys?" And we said, "We're friends of Rodney. He told us we should come to the show." Now, none of us were friends with Rodney.
Right.
Now you're talking chutzpah and balls, right?
Yeah. There you go.
He said, but how we did know him is he used to come at the Catch a Rising Star to do 5 minutes, and we said hello to him like 3, 4 times, but never really talked to him. So the maitre d' goes, "I'll be right back." He comes back a few minutes later after talking to Rodney. He goes, "Rodney said to give you some seats and come backstage after." Rodney's thinking, maybe I do know these.
Right. Yeah.
So he puts us in a booth right in the center of the showroom, like a high roller booth, the three of us, and we didn't have money to tip him. We had no money. We just had enough money to maybe get home. So we see the show, and they brought us club sodas, and thank God they didn't charge us $9 each because we didn't have the dough.
Right.
After the show, they take us in the back, and Rodney's there, and he goes, "Where do I know you guys from?" And we said, "We were at Catch a Rising Star. We saw you." And he was okay with it. And then he took us to dinner. Right? Takes us out to dinner.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. But to a Chinese restaurant. But first he stops at the delicatessen next door to order matzo ball soup that they're going to deliver to the Chinese restaurant because he wants to start his Chinese meal with matzo ball soup. And Rodney says, "Where you guys staying?" And we said, "Well, Rodney, we're driving back tonight because we don't have any money." And he stares at us. He goes, what are you, out of your friggin' mind? Hey, what do you mean you come to Vegas with no money? And he couldn't fathom that we just drove to Vegas to see him with no, and he gave us his manager's room for the night.
Wow.
He said, I got this extra room where my manager stays. He's not in town. You can have the room. And then he said this, he goes, don't fuck me on the phone calls. He goes, no long distance calls because he didn't want to pay the extra money.
That's hilarious.
It was incredible. So that's how our first real meeting with Rodney. And
Wow.
cut to the chase, the day before he died, his wife called me and said, Mark, if you want to say goodbye to him, this is your opportunity. So I went up to UCLA to the hospital. He was in a coma, in and out a little. And only Rodney could be funny in a coma. For some reason, he just seemed funny.
Right.
And I said goodbye. I gave him a kiss on the head, and he was gone the next day.
Wow.
So I really had a nice, long relationship with him from 12 years old all the way right to his last day.
Wow. The impact of when being a 12-year-old, being inspired by this guy, he's probably the reason you started doing comedy in the first place. You build a friendship out of thin air with him, basically. And then you're there to talk to him the day before he passes. That's a
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful weaving. And I'm so glad and everyone I know that met him was so glad they met him. We all had deep respect for him as a comedian.
You always hear great things about him. I mean, he's to me, he's the greatest one line. I love Henny Youngman, but I think I think
Yeah.
Rodney is a way better. Just maybe it's for the times or something like that. He was more modern, but there's something about his speed, the delivery, essence, everything about him, and also you just hear these great stories about him behind the scenes too. He's a stand-up guy, great, and he born in Long Island. Another shout out to Long Island.
Well, Rodney also had the best catchphrase of all time.
Yeah,
I don't get no respect. Henny had great jokes, but he didn't have that. Joan Rivers tried it with Can We Talk?
right,
That
right.
was good. That was good, but it wasn't, I don't get no respect. That was every person feels like that at one time.
And what a great setup for everything. I get no respect. I tell you the other day, and then
Yeah.
he tells you why he gets. It's just such a
I'll tell you,
brilliant.
my wife said to me she wanted to have sex in the back of the car and she wanted me to drive. You know?
Those are great. Yeah, he's
I
just
said to a cab driver, take me where the action is. He took me to my house. You know? Yeah, he
uh,
was amazing. I
legend.
sold him a joke. The first, you're a writer, you'll dig this. The first money I ever made in my life as a writer, I sold a joke to Rodney for $25. And he did it on the Tonight Show. It was like, what a great honor to watch the Tonight Show and hear those words come out of his mouth.
Wow. What was the joke?
He goes, I'll tell you, Johnny, I know I'm getting old. I went to the cemetery to visit my father, and two guys ran after me with shovels.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a great joke, and he did it so perfectly, and I was so honored. And I even Xeroxed the check for $25, and I saved it. It was great.
That's awesome. When you're writing for somebody else, especially somebody iconic like Rodney with an iconic voice, is that challenging or easier, like for you as a writer?
If you're a writer and you got the goods, writing for somebody with a voice like Rodney's is easy. It's not easy to craft a great joke, but you know exactly what fits this guy. It's like I get measured for a suit, a 42 regular, whatever, and then the next day I call for three more. They know exactly what fits me, so
Right,
I don't
right,
have to come back in to be measured.
right. Yeah.
Um, so no, he was very easy, and he had a very honest streak in him. He said when you handed him a joke, he said, "Did you write this yourself? You didn't see it on TV somewhere, or it's not somebody else's that you given me. This is an original joke."
Right.
Because he didn't want to buy stolen goods, and I don't blame him.
Yeah. Exactly. Because even being high profile like he was too, and when you are buying jokes and you don't know where that writer got it from, he could have stole it, and then he's the one who's got to
Yeah.
take the hit for it.
So I tried to talk to him once about his alcohol and drug use because I'm a sober guy myself. I haven't had a drink in decades and no drugs and anything.
Good
But
man, God
I
bless.
asked him about weed because he was so, and he couldn't conceive of a life without weed. It was just beyond his imagination. But meanwhile, the guy did all right. He lived to 86.
Yeah.
You know, his autobiography, I don't know if you ever read the dedication in the front. It says, "To all the girls who let me sleep over." It was a great dedication, probably the best one I've ever seen in any book. To all the girls that
That's
and
classic. Yeah.
you know, he's the greatest comedian ever, and you know, so he did okay with the drugs and the alcohol in spite of his life. So
Yeah.
Your real name is not Rodney Dangerfield.
No, no, no. I was born Jacob Cohen, Cohen, 61 years ago in Babbitt, Long Island. I went through school in the name of Jack Cohen. And when I was 19, I changed my name legally to Jack Roy, R-O-Y. My father used that in vaudeville. And Rodney Dangerfield is a trade name, which I picked up about 20 years ago. I didn't want to put my name in the paper when I came back in show business, and I told the owner of the place put any other name in, so he put in Rodney Dangerfield. Now, I was going through a very depressed time at the time. I was about 40, and life was caving in, so I went crazy, so I'll become Rodney Dangerfield. A friend of mine said, take the name. I said, I don't know, it's weird, Rodney. But I took it, and that's how I became Rodney Dangerfield.
And you did okay too, man. Being this young kid, 12 years old, you get influenced, inspired by Rodney Dangerfield. You can go on and you start pursuing comedy yourself, and then what was it, 76 or so? I guess you find
yeah,
yourself at the comic strip, the great legendary comic strip.
yeah, yeah. I had already I auditioned at the Improv 17 times before they passed me. 17 weeks in a row. Every Sunday they would have auditions. And I got online with Gilbert Gottfried, Joe Piscopo, a whole bunch of people.
Wow, yeah.
And 17 times. But the comic strip, when I auditioned there was no floor yet. There was just dirt. They were building it. So I stood in the dirt. Richie Tinkin, the owner, and Bob Wax, one of the owners, sat in chairs in front of me on this dirt floor. And they said, go ahead. And I did 5 minutes or 3 minutes. And they said, okay, you can work here. And I was lucky. They gave me great spots from the day they opened the door.
And that's a legendary club, and so many greats have come out from there, including Jerry Seinfeld, and that's where you guys kind of met up, and because
Yeah.
I think the '70s was such a great time for comedy. It was just before the '80s boom. I think comedy was just kind of becoming like dangerous, so to speak. Like, you got especially in California, you got a lot of guys popping out over there.
Yeah.
And just tell me a little bit about just the comedy in that time period in the '70s, early to mid '70s, when things were just starting to really. I feel like comedy was having kind of a resurgence, like a golden age or so.
When then?
Yeah, what would you say?
So there was no, the interesting thing about it's a good question. There was nowhere to work. We had the clubs, and between New York and California, there was nothing in the middle. There were no comedy clubs. There was discos and this. So we started with not a major plan. Like we didn't want to do the Catskill Mountains. We weren't nearly, professional enough to do any of the little theaters that these guys did around the country.
Right, yeah.
And it was great. It was so friendly. It was amazing. Every night it was a party. And I don't mean with drinking and drugging or, it was a party. You walked into the club. It was like our Cheers. Everybody knew each other. Jerry's there, Larry Miller's there, George Wallace is there, Gilbert Gottfried is there, Paul Reiser is there, one after another.
Wow, yeah.
Carol Leifer, and we're all hanging out. And we didn't know where this was going to head for any of us, but we just knew we were funny and very supportive, much more so than in California. When I got out to California, it was a little darker. There wasn't the support. There was heavy in the drug. None of the guys growing up in New York were I don't think anybody in our group did cocaine or
Right. Yeah.
Over Catch a Rising Star, there was more of that, but we weren't really a part of that.
Right. Yeah, there was a, if you think about it now, like you said, there was I could see a difference in the kind of the New York comics and that and the California side in that time period, especially with the drug stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, like the Comedy Store guys and their battles,
the
with
Kinnison
Mitzi,
group,
yeah, all that.
Kinnison, all those guys, big drugs, guns, booze, hookers. That wasn't. We were the Jews.
Right, yeah,
We were
with the
like,
chutzpah, with the
yeah,
chutzpah.
we had Jews with balls, and we weren't going to drug ourselves or hooker ourselves, or we had other things to do. We wanted to be funny,
Exactly.
and you know, not saying a lot of great comedians didn't come out of the West Coast, but it was darker. It was darker. It wasn't as
Yeah.
friendly, and it wasn't as cutthroat on the East Coast.
Yeah, there's more camaraderie.
Yes, absolutely true. And we're friends to this day. All of
Yeah.
us are friends to this day. Interesting enough, Jerry, Larry, Paul, me, we're all married to the same woman. That we none of us got divorced. None of, you know,
Wow.
we were able to stay put and maintain marriages. A lot of marriages, a lot of people fell apart on the road.
It's tough, if you're on the road and temptations everywhere, you're a performer, girls get turned on when they see you on stage, and then all of a sudden there's temptation
Yeah,
to stay strong through that and through the drugs and the
yeah,
alcohol. It
yeah.
says a
So
lot.
we were kind of blessed with that. We had our job to do. So no complaints. And I was with Jerry this weekend. We were in Tucson, Arizona
Yeah.
first, and then two shows in Vegas. It was phenomenal.
When you're
And we-
starting out and
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 by
you
the way, we went to the Sphere. You know the Sphere in
oh yeah,
Vegas?
you went there? How was that?
We saw the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, I saw clips of the Wizard of Oz on. It looks amazing. The tornado looked crazy,
It
hasn't
was
it?
ridiculous how incredible. Um, you you can't bring anybody under 12 years old to see that because it's too freaking frightening.
Yeah.
They'll just have nightmares the rest of their life. This thing was so you're in the wind is blowing in the theater. And there's a guy in front of me, his hat blew off his head. I mean,
Huh.
that's how bad the wind is, and stuff is falling from the sky, and it was insane.
It's like seeing it for the first time again.
Like you've never seen it. There's a lot of AI stuff in it too, but it was really, yeah. We never saw it like this, and that's one of our favorite films, all of us.
So it was you, Jerry, and Paul Reiser in the Sphere watching Wizard of
No,
Oz.
Paul wasn't there. It
Oh,
was Jerry, me, a guy named Rob Prince, and Kevin Doctorman, and Tom Keeney. So Kevin books shows. He's one of Jerry's producers on the road. Rob Prince also is Jerry's agent, book shows. Tom Keeney is his press guy, Jerry and me. And we had a booth, and it was just great.
that's incredible. That's incredible. And when you've known Jerry pretty much since the beginning, when you first, so here you are, the comic strip, mid 70s. You start getting the camaraderie, meeting other young comics. There's Paul Reiser, there's Jerry Seinfeld, there's George Wallace. Do you know that there's something special, or does it just feel like a bunch of guys having fun, or does it feel like, you know what, I think this is gonna be like, did you have that sense of I'm around, like this is gonna be a greatness
We
here?
all we all we all respected each other. We liked what we were doing. We were all writers, who none of us really did any crowd work. We really believed in the written word, and we tried. We were trying to get on TV. The goal was to get on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and in order to do that, asking people where they're from in the audience is not going to get you on the Tonight Show. And we were all very clear on that. You had to craft this 5 minutes thing, and have a couple of them. And we all respected how hard we worked and every night. So yeah, but with Jerry, it was interesting. People kind of felt different about him. Like this, they looked at me and they thought, yeah, I was going to go somewhere, but they really thought he was really going to go somewhere. Like there was something, he was almost like a Zen master, like, just doing this. And Rodney told him real young, he said, he told Jerry, he goes, I know you were going to be big, there's something about you.
So he had that something, he had that it factor even from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah. He, When he came aboard to start doing this, he was working at Bruenberger as a waiter. He was selling jewelry on the street. I mean, people don't realize, he didn't get wealthy. He wasn't born into wealth. His parents could barely pay a mortgage. They didn't
Right.
have any
Yeah.
money. His father made signs for a living.
Right. Right.
So Jerry started with nothing. He's very self-made, like all of us. But people knew that this guy had a special twinkle to him.
And now here you guys are. I just saw a picture of you. It was you, Jerry, and Brian Regan, all just hanging out.
Yeah,
Um,
we went out to dinner this weekend. Yeah.
that's just awesome. I would love that's the kind of table with you, Regan, and Seinfeld that I would
Yeah.
like. I'd pay admission for just to sit there and listen to you
It was
guys.
so much fun. It was so much fun. We were just banging on the table and laughing our heads off. We got into this whole thing about cannibals at the table. Like, if cannibals are, if they discern between one person and another, like, nah, I'm not going to eat him. Let's take the fat guy over there. It's like we riffed on being a cannibal, like the mind of a cannibal, and we were killing each other. We just thought it was so friggin' funny. And then Brian, interesting enough, last time we were in Vegas, Brian joined us for dinner. And Jerry said to him, "Are you working on anything new?" And he told us his routine that he was working on. And then the first thing I asked him when we sat down again, "How's that routine going?" He goes, "Made it, you know." You never know with new routines if, you know, I did a new one out in Vegas this weekend, just a couple of lines, and it worked. And it made my entire weekend a success. The money was nice, the other jokes, but this thing that I threw out made me happy. I'll tell you what it is, basically. You're a
Yeah.
married
Okay.
guy, right?
Yeah.
You're a married guy.
Yeah. I'm married.
So the premise I said to the audience, I said, my wife, we got in this. She doesn't think I listen to her. So she said to me, if you don't want to listen to me, just tell me. Just tell me to stop talking. And I look at the audience and go, how do you think that went? How do you think that worked out for me? Because I said to her, honey, stop talking. I don't want to hear any more of this. I said to the audience, you think I had sex that night after saying that to her? And they just loved it. They related to it. And I left the weekend felt like $1 million. I got 4 new lines in to
That's
3,000
awesome.
people.
Victory.
Friggin' success,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, man. And you know what's good too? What I love about that, the joke is great, but I love too that you see a lot of guys that've been around and they get comfortable in their act and they don't change it and they don't write it. Like I know some comics that have the same act for like 20 years. So
Yeah.
it's good that you're, constantly tweaking it and adding to it and working and, how important is that to you, and do you think for other comedians that they should
It's
constantly?
everything. It's so much. Brian Regan is a master of that because he has a thing that he does. He doesn't, because we talked about how you work on stuff, and he doesn't come out with a new 6-minute routine. Nobody does. Maybe Bill Cosby did in his heyday, but Brian will add a couple of lines like I did. I know these work. Now we'll add 2 more lines to it, or 3, and bring that out next time and see. And you build it 2, 3 lines at a time, like you're building a building. You don't throw all the bricks up in one day.
Right, yeah.
You put this layer and then this layer, and that's how it works. And you got to have patience and to do these things.
How structured is your act? Like, do you ever freestyle or just kind of wing it? And like write. A lot of comics they'll write on stage, so to speak. Do you ever do that, or you strictly, this is my act today, and more structure?
So like I just did Reno recently. I did the Laugh Factory in Reno with my friend Avi Lieberman, and I'll take routines that are very structured I've done, and I'll add to them on stage off the top of my head, and then after I'll write them down. I write everything down. So does Jerry. So do all of us. We have to write it down. Otherwise, you know, a lot of comedians, I don't know how they do it. They just go up with a line like, you know, chasing frogs, and then they can do like 2, 3 minutes, and it's never been our style. We believe in sitting down and writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, as a writer also, like I think that I feel like you get a more completed
Absolutely.
piece when you write it as with because then if you just like about frogs or whatever, and if you just kind of spitballing it and going over, it's going to be different
Yeah.
every time, and you might not always land it or forget things
Some
or
of those guys are great at it. That's their
yeah,
talent. It's not our thing. I don't have those type of nuts that I think I can just go out and I read something very interesting today. Nate Bargatze.
yeah. Love Nate, great comic.
He's the biggest. He made more money than any comedian last year. He's the highest grossing comedian. And they made a special point that Nate works clean. So I found that to be great to
Yeah,
see that one of the cleanest comedians in the country is also the highest grossing guy. There's nobody that Nate can't work for.
right, exactly. And I felt like that was that always I feel like it was always the clean guys, like back in the day, pre drama was Cosby, and then Jerry, and then even Regan, Gaffigan. These kind of clean comics always seem to be more successful than
Yeah.
in most cases, than the dirtier one.
Yeah, because we can do corporate work too.
Right, right,
That's
yeah,
and when we are coming up, that was a big deal. Like IBM is having their thing in Las Vegas with 4,000 people. They don't want to put in somebody that's going to FF everything in MF, and they don't want that. So we the generation before us and before that pretty much all were clean because um, there were only three networks: ABC, NBC, and CBS. If you wanted to get on a show, on the Tonight Show, you had to be clean.
right, yeah,
And if I'm in the clubs going F this and F that, and then I pull those words out to fit it into a show, it's not going to be as strong. It has to
right,
be crafted that way without those words, giving it a leg up.
right, right.
Um,
And I think if the joke is funny without the bad words, because a lot of times it's the bad words that emphasizes the punchline, right? So like F this guy, whatever. But if you could just find a way to do that without that, the
yeah,
joke ultimately is funnier. Like,
yeah. And I mean, there's a place for it for perhaps some jokes. We don't do it.
yeah,
But and there's nothing against, listen, who is funnier than Richard Pryor? I mean, but
right,
that was who he was. He was raised in a whorehouse in Peoria by his grandmother, who was the madam, and that's the language that he grew up hearing, and that's how he spoke.
right, yeah,
But I'm a kid from the Bronx, from a Jewish family, and my mother and father were going F you and MF, and
right. You weren't hearing that. That wasn't who you
no,
are. Yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
So it was all quite extraordinary.
And that's what I always loved about stand-up comedy is there's all different kind of genres of stand-up comedy, and there's all different styles and ways to do it,
Right.
and there is no one way
No,
um
million
to
different. So we have a podcast, and it's called "We Think It's Funny" with my partner Danny Lobel.
yeah, great
And,
podcast by the way.
yeah, we think it's funny. And when we're on a clean network, so when people sit down with us, even if they're comedians that curse a lot, like we had Jay Moore on, and Jay will say whatever he wants, and he's hysterical, Jay. But we
Right,
said to him, Jay, we're on a clean network. 12 and up can if you have to curse, we're going to bleep it. But if not, fine. And people understand and they're able to adhere. And if they throw the F word in once in a while, then we're going to bleep it out. But so, and we're happy about that.
hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Trendsjackers. Trendsjackers is where you can get streetwear for the bold.
America's turning 250, and it's time to rock out with our forefathers. American-made, battle-ready style for true patriots. Whether you're marching in the parade, grilling in the backyard, or raising a toast to liberty, do it in the gear that screams freedom. Celebrate 250 years of USA in style. Wear your American pride loud. Trendjackers.etsy.com. Grab yours before the fireworks.
Go to trendsjackers.etsy.com. That's TRENDZJACKERS.etsy.com. Go to the store, get your gear today. Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's great to set a precedent and an example that, look, we don't need to go down that road to have a great show, to have a great interviews, or to be funny, or any of
Yeah.
that stuff. I think it's inspiring too, to a lot of people that think, especially young comics, that think the only way to do it is to shock. Because I feel like a lot of guys try to be Chappelle or David Tell or somebody like that, and they're trying to
Yeah.
shock you all the time, or CK. What's your take
They're
on
very
that?
funny. They're very funny guys. But even George Carlin said sometimes I use it as a little, to enhance.
Right.
I mean, listen, there was no greater wordsmith than George Carlin. He was genius at the words. But and his routine, the 7 words you can't say on television, are absolutely brilliant. But he himself admitted sometimes it just gave it a little extra cayenne pepper that it needed.
Yeah, and I wonder if he felt like Carlin, one of my favorite comedians of all time, but I wonder if sometimes he felt like he boxed himself into having to be that guy, that edgy guy who cursed, because he started clean and then he became this other guy who I love all, you know,
Yeah, but it didn't work for him. He was part of a comedy team
yeah,
in the beginning, and he was from an era where you had to be clean, and he wore a suit and tie. And it was just like Pryor. Pryor used to be like Cosby, very clean. And then one day, the story is he just walked off the stage and said, "Listen, I've had it with this," and he went to San Francisco and became the Richard Pryor we know.
right, yeah,
To be on stage and not do who you truly are is
right.
hard.
That's the
It's
thing.
then you're just not that there's anything wrong with it, but you're just a welder putting in bolts, and
Right.
so
Yeah, I think the funny is when you stay true, like, a lot of comics say, hey, um, just talk about what you know, talk about your own life, your own perspective on life, and you can't go wrong
yeah,
because it's coming from you. It's who you are.
Woody Allen was just on Bill Maher on his podcast, Random, and Woody talked about working clean because it's just the way he was, and that's what he did. But Maher brought up in the movie Deconstructing Harry, Woody's cursing his head off. And Woody said, because that's what that character did.
Right, right.
Ordinarily, I don't do that, but this character was able to do that and it worked. But so if it's right for the character, I'm writing a screenplay now with my friend Brian Ross, and we're writing a screenplay, and we're clean and as a writer. So he wrote Hallmark movies, many of them.
Wow.
But there was one spot where the F word was very important in this clean script through 100 pages of no cursing. But this one spot demanded it, and we both agreed that we had to put it in.
Is it because like it was out of character for the character to say it, and it proved and like
Well,
ex
she just had to say it because she was so frustrated and so angry about what just happened. She had to say, F this,
right,
you know? And her father happened to be on the phone when she said it because she saw something happening.
right,
And he goes, what? Because he had never heard her talk like that.
right.
But it just had to be done. Is that who's in the painting behind you?
Oh, this is a fake background, by the way, of this is Wayne's World. This is the Wayne's
Okay,
World
yeah,
set.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Look like,
Yeah, so
yeah.
there's all Chicago stuff over here. I'm not,
Now I see. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But this was my homage when we first went to podcasts. We first went remote after the pandemic
COVID.
hit. Yeah, so then I started doing it from here, my home office, and then I gave an homage to the OGs, the first guys to do it, kinda, Wayne and Garth. So
So that's not a real. That's behind you. It's a screen.
yeah, it's just like just a fake
So
screen.
you're basically homeless now. You're in the street in
Yeah,
a tent. You're in a tent with a computer,
I'm in a tent with a computer. Believe it or not, I'm
and
right.
you
Yeah,
got this screen behind you, and I think you have a place to live. And no wonder you haven't shaved in weeks.
yeah. You think I have a great, like,
Yeah, I
cool
think
shark
I'm looking at
thing?
this. I'm thinking this guy's doing well. He's got a basement, and life
Got
is
it.
good. You're a bum living in eating out of garbage cans. Okay, I
That's
understand.
yeah. There you
Well,
go.
I commend that you are able to have such a good attitude in life.
I'm in the tent. I'm still pursuing my dreams.
God bless you. And you look like you've eaten well recently, so
Yeah, I've.
garbage cans have been good to you.
I'm in a good spot. I'm right across the street from like a pizza place. Good times. But there's so much great stuff I want to talk to you about because you have such a full career.
I do.
Um, I definitely want to talk about Johnny Carson and the because you say you don't like to use the F word, but I heard that you did once in regards to Johnny. So I want to hear
Right.
that story.
Yeah, well, it's in the book. It's in my book, Why Not? Lessons on Comedy, Courage, and Chutzpah. So, one night, Jim McCauley, who is the talent coordinator for Tonight Show, he would come to New York once, twice, three times a year to look at the batch of new comedians to see if anybody's right for Johnny Carson. And he came into the comic strip one night, and I was on with like six other comedians or eight comedians, I can't remember exactly. And everybody did 5 minutes. And I got a standing ovation for my 5 minutes while he's sitting there.
Wow, huge.
And I thought this, and I didn't get standing ovations normally anyway, but when you do 5 minutes and you get it, that's really something.
Yeah.
So I'm out at the bar, and he comes out after the show, and he's talking to this comic, and he doesn't say a word to me. And then he just walks out into the street there on Second Avenue. So I followed him out, and I had an anger problem anyway. At that point in my life, I was an angry young man. I was drinking a lot,
Right.
which fueled me. And I called him I said, "Hey Jim." He goes, "Hey Mark, how are you?" So I said, "Hey Jim, what do you think?" He goes, "It was a terrific set, just really, really, really funny." And I said, "Yeah, but what do you think?" He goes, "Yeah, it was funny, funny." And I said, "But what about the show?" And he looks at me, he goes, it was really funny, but you're not right for the show. You're not what Johnny's looking for." And he goes, I buy for Johnny. I don't buy for myself. I got to buy what I think Johnny's going to like. I said, "Yeah, but I got a standing ovation." He goes, "I know, I saw that, but maybe some other time, but this isn't." And he turns and walks away. And excuse me, but I yell, "Fuck you."
Right. Yeah.
And he turns and looks at me and goes, "What'd you say?" And I said it again. And he goes, "You will," and he points, "You will never, ever do the show as long as you live." And he turns
Wow.
and walks away, and it's drizzling and kind of raining a little out. And there I am standing on Second Avenue in front of the comic strip, knowing I have no more career. I'm never going to do the Tonight Show. I just blew any chance I have, and I'm finished. Because if you know you're not doing a Tonight Show back then, you're finished.
That was the mecca. That was where you want to get on because people become overnight sensations and
20 million people got to know you overnight. Not like now, 300, 800,000 people looking at the show and on their phones. Everybody sat in and watched.
yep.
So, cut to the chase. I kept performing, doing clubs, no Tonight Show. I did a Merv or something, and no Letterman yet. 7 years later, I'm in San Francisco in a club. I'm headlining there, and Jim McCauley walks in, and I go over and I say, "Hey, Jim, how you doing?" And we had passed each other at the Improv, but we never talked about what happened that night.
Right. Yeah.
So he said, I'm good." I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, I came to see the guy that's opening for you. I hear he's funny." So I said, "He is funny." And then he looks at me and goes, "Do you mind if I stick around and watch you after?" So I said, "Sure." And I had to do an hour that night. And I went on, and I'm on stage, and all I can think of is Jim McCauley's here. Maybe I got another shot here now.
Right.
And I did my hour. And afterwards, after he talks to this other guy, he comes over to me and goes, "That was really good." He goes, "You got the show."
Wow. Yeah.
And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, call me Monday, come into my office, and we'll have you on in a couple of weeks. And I did the show, and I did a bunch of shows with Johnny. And not only did I do the show, when he released something called the Ultimate Johnny Carson Collection and his favorite comedian's first time shots, mine was on there.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's
I
huge.
never had the conversation with Jim McCauley about what I did that night. He was kind enough to never bring it up again. I didn't bring it up, and we became kind of friendly to each other. He couldn't have been more helpful. And he was 100% right not to give me the Tonight Show that night when he saw me at the Strip, because I was not ready. And I was not the type of comic that Johnny was looking for. And I was deluding myself thinking I knew what I was doing. It was too early in my career. And if I did get on the show, I never would have gotten on again anyway.
How
So,
would you say you, in those 7 years from the first time Macaulay saw you to the second time, what was it, just being seasoned up that made you more ready? Was it your
yeah,
material? What?
exponential. Yeah. I mean, my material was sharp, to the point, well written. Um, I had the punchlines in all the right places. I would work clean. He saw a seasoned guy. 7 years
Yeah,
I was like maybe 12 years in at that point. So if there were ever a time to do it,
yeah.
that was the time.
And
And there's a word in Jewish Hebrew called beshert, which means it was meant to be.
no, yeah.
That moment was my moment to grab hold.
And you got
So, luckily, I didn't say to him that night in San Francisco when he said, "Yeah, I love your show," and he go, "Fuck you," you know. Imagine
right,
that.
right, yeah.
But I was sober at the point, clean, less angry.
Then you really were ready then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comedians are angry. You're upset. Otherwise, you can't be funny. If you're not upset about something, you can't make it funny. If I just go, I had a cup of tea that was terrific this morning. It's really, what's funny about that?
exactly.
But if I say, the thing tasted like toilet water, now we're moving in a direction where there's potential.
Right. Yeah, there has to be a little line of anger or aggravation or curmudgeon in in the
Absolutely.
comedian.
Absolutely. Anybody that's doing well and living a good life and everything is good and they look trim and they got money, what's funny about that?
But I would say I'm glad that you got your redemption. And I'm glad Jim McCauley, I think that says a lot for him too, to kind of to get past that, because he might have an ego and he's like, who's this guy saying F you to me? I'm never, but he was able to
Yeah.
see past that.
He was very forgiving and he did his job. He was buying for Johnny. And he was able to put himself aside, even though because he didn't forget it. Nobody forgets that,
Right, right, yeah.
especially in that situation where he came to see,
Right.
unless he had a lobotomy and that was erased from his brain, and that wasn't happening.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But he knew that I was ready and Johnny would probably like me.
So now you're seasoned up, you 7 years, you go to the Tonight Show. What's that like? How much prep went into that set? We like to take me through the whole backstage mindset of, but just before the curtain opens and you're going out there. Because did you meet Johnny beforehand, or he normally didn't do that, right?
Didn't meet anybody.
Yeah.
Johnny doesn't meet anybody. I was once backstage. Remember Tony Randall?
Yeah, yeah.
I was doing a Tonight Show, and I'm sitting in my makeup chair. There's a room where there's a couple of makeup chairs, and then there's another room where Johnny walks in, just waves, and goes into his personal makeup room.
Right.
So one time I'm sitting next to Tony Randall getting made up, and Johnny walks in, walks over to Tony and talks to him, and passes me and goes, "Hey, Mark," and then goes in. And Tony Randall said to me, "I've been doing this show for 15 years. That's the first time he ever talked to me before the show."
Wow.
It's not something Johnny did because he wanted to keep it fresh.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He didn't want to have chatter beforehand. He wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's put it like this. Standing behind the curtain, waiting to go out with Doc Severinsen and orchestra playing so loud and knowing Johnny's there and Ed is there, I can only say I would have been less frightened if I knew I was going to the electric chair that night. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I would not have been as panicked because the electric chair, I knew what would happen. I knew it was over. Here, you don't know if you're
Right.
not going to die or this is it for you.
Right.
So it's a little more tentative than the electric chair.
Mark Schiff. Mark.
Thank you very much.
It's got to be a tense few minutes of standing there with the curtain, knowing what's behind there, and you haven't like seen Johnny yet. I don't know if you saw Ed or Doc or if any of them, and you just basically go out there for the first time in front of a live audience, and
Yeah, no, you see them because they got the TV on in your dressing room, and
right,
you
right,
see that you know
that this is real.
this is yeah. Here I am sitting in my dressing room. So to just give you a quick thing, how you get through it or how you get that set ready, is I went to Jim McCauley's office. We picked the 5 minutes he wanted me to do. Picked a little bit of panel in case Johnny calls me over because you never know and nobody knows except Johnny at that moment what's happening. So I had my 5 minutes, and then I went about to do it 100 times before the shot. I went from club to club to club to club. Jimmy Brogan, the great comedian Jimmy
Oh yeah,
Brogan,
Jimmy Brogan.
came
Yeah.
with me night after night. This is what we used to do for each other. We used to work on the shot together. So I would go with Jimmy when he was doing his Tonight Show. He would come with me. I would go with a guy named Ronnie Shakes, and we'd all do it together. Go travel each other, work on the shot because we wanted each other to do well.
Right. Yeah.
Because you got the show, and I didn't yet. No reason for me not to help you.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it was a very
That's the
close.
camaraderie. That's what you
Yeah.
need. Yeah.
So, but legend has, and this is what happens: the last set you do for practice usually doesn't go well. That seems to happen to everybody. You
Really.
usually
Yeah.
go out, do the set, and you go, "Oh no, oh no, I'm doing it tomorrow. This is my last shot practicing, and I friggin' died.
Right.
Oh no." So I'll tell you why it's important to do that every night. Rodney Dangerfield would come into when he knew he was doing a Tonight Show. He would come in to Catch a Rising Star, come in the Improv, come in comedy. He would go do it 100 times, and then he would go on the show. One night he was on with Jay Leno. Jay was hosting,
Right.
and Jay looks at Rodney and says to him during the show, "Are you okay?" And Rodney keeps doing the jokes. He says, "Yeah, I'm okay." And Jay says, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yeah." Rodney had a stroke on the panel.
Oh wow.
And Jay could spot it, but Rodney was
Wow.
so rehearsed to do the jokes, even with a stroke. He finished the set. They called an ambulance and they took him away.
When I get hungry, I don't think right.
Yeah.
But the other day, I woke up, had a craving for nuts.
Yeah.
That's what I was craving for. I forgot what I was craving for, you know.
Yeah,
But I woke up the other day. Listen, everyone's entitled to freak up, you know. What the hell?
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was so rehearsed that he still was able to like deliver
was
the
able-
lines.
We do it so many times, even with a stroke. Rodney proved your mouth still keeps going. You get that last joke out. And then they took him on a stretcher and took him away.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Jay knew it because he saw Rodney's eyes roll up in his head.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing, right?
That's
So
amazing.
that's why you do it 100 times before, because in case there's ever going to be a chance to go blank, you don't want that to happen.
Right. Yeah. You
'Cause
want to
it's
be
very-
able to almost
it's
like
a
muscle
pressure
memory.
cooker.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker out there, and you can get yourself crazy and go, and I've seen a couple of comedians looking for that next line to pop up in their brain, Didn't happen to us.
So yeah, so you did it like 100 times, just working the circuit. Then you're there, and
Yeah.
in your mind, that you got it. You know that you don't have to worry about that part of it. So
Yeah, what you got to deal with are your nerves.
because it's
You
like
know, and
such a big
that's-
deal. I mean, it's scary going on a TV show now, But back then, there's so much on the line, especially your first time going on there, and when to make a break with Johnny Carson. I mean,
Yeah, you don't do well your first shot on Tonight Show. You're sent to the Amazon to
right?
paddle
Yeah.
up a crocodile infested river and try to get gigs there.
So how did it go? So you went out there, and how did it go?
Well, I kept doing it after that, and Johnny gave me the okay sign. And then my third set, he called me over to the panel, and eventually I became one of his favorites as far as, doing my first shot. And he really liked it. I talked about marriage a lot, and I think he appreciated that because he'd been married a couple of times and he loved marriage jokes.
That's so awesome. When he calls you to the panel, it was like the third time you were on, you said, and he brought you in. What's that? That's got to be a whole nother animal of how to handle this amazing moment. Now you sit next to Johnny, and
Yeah. Oh my God. You're sitting 10 inches away from the face.
right,
That face that you've just been watching for 30 years since you were a little kid on TV. You were 25 years, and there it is right in front of you, and you can't believe it. You keep going, like moving your head around, like, really?
right,
Really? Is that who you are? Am I sitting here? It's crazy. It's like being dropped from a spaceship into a chair, and there you are.
that's so that's so amazing.
And Ed is laughing, and it's the whole thing is stupid.
It's got to be surreal, like an out of body almost, especially when you're first there, just especially now looking back at there's such
Yeah.
iconic, but it's got to be surreal, like you sit in
Totally
between.
surreal and totally out of body. But the great thing about stand-up comedy is this. The door is wide open for anybody. It's not like acting. You got to look this way or that way, or and Mike, if Michael Douglas was my father or Kirk Douglas was my father, he can open a door for me. You can't open a door for a stand-up comedian. Nobody can open a door.
Right, yeah.
It's impossible. I could say to somebody, I think my son is funny, and then they'll know in 3 seconds whether I'm out of my mind.
It's true because the proof is in
Yeah,
the pudding with that. Yeah.
totally. And it is the most wide open business in the world because everybody has their own little store that they open. And if you're good, people will go buy from you.
I love that. And that's true. And we've seen it like so many different types of people.
Every
Some
comedian who makes it, open their own little shop and and there are no flukes.
right,
If a guy's killing an audience for, these, what do they call these influencers who have like 5 minutes or something, they die on the vine out there when somebody gives them a job.
right, yeah. And we see
They
that a
can't
lot
do
now.
45 an hour. But if you can do an hour, solid laughs, that's not a mistake.
Right.
That's not like that was an accident. We can slip anybody into a movie and they can do well.
That's true. But yeah,
You
you
know,
can't
the-
put them on stage.
Forget it. Not in a million. Not in, it'd be like you trying to tell somebody you're a ballet dancer right now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
No, no. How long will it take them to know that? I mean, you don't even have to dance for them to look at you. You know you're out of your mind.
Yeah, they can just tell right just by my face. They're like, yeah, like there's no way this guy can dance.
Yeah, so it's like you can't do it with comedy. If my father was the biggest comedian that ever lived and told somebody about me, no, no,
Right.
no.
No, I agree. You gotta,
And it doesn't matter. There's no races. If you're black, white, Chinese, whatever you are,
yep.
the door's open 100%.
And it's one of the only entertainment fields like where if you're going back all the way back to Fatty Arbuckle, where if you're overweight, they love you even more sometimes. I think or your body
The fat
type.
comedians, you're absolutely right. The fat comedians break through faster than almost anybody.
Yeah, and like there's so many great comics, and I think there's something to being like self deprived, uh that we all connect to, even if you're not as overweight as them or whatever the ailment might be, or
Yeah, that's right.
like neurotic, like like a Woody Allen type of guy. I think we all see ourselves in that person. We're all that person, and I think that's
That's
the
right. If you cannot identify, you can't laugh.
right.
It's all identification is really the big part. Like if I go out on stage and go, I got a perfect marriage. I'm worth $90 million. I have a fleet of cars, and I live in a 28,000 square foot home. Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, like the other
Same
day, I
thing.
tell you, my maid really was getting on my nerves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? And my Lamborghini broke down, and so I had to drive the Porsche. No,
Yeah,
you know, listen. Jerry is a master at this because people know when he comes out on stage, they know he's worth a lot of money. They know he has a Porsche collection. They know he had the biggest show in history. But he's still a everyday regular guy, and he talks about that stuff. When he talks about toothpaste, or he talks about whatever he's talking about, it's everyday stuff.
he's so his observations is just so classic, and he's
Yeah,
still his whole essence of how he sees things, like even his on Long Island, in Long Island, you get in the taxi cab to get on Long Island, and all that
right.
stuff. It's
You get
just
in the
so
Uber, you get on the train.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's amazing like that. So, yeah, you just have to be a regular person, doing regular stuff, everyday stuff that people relate to, and they'll love it.
Now, have you seen that comic? There's this thing that's just been going out like the last couple of days. This guy, comedian named Drewski. Uh,
No,
okay, so if you get a chance, I'll show it on here, but you have to see it to really understand it. But this black comic did a white NASCAR body paint, and it would have been funny, I think. But then he
I
started,
heard he dressed in whiteface.
yeah, and then he was like spitting at black people and going, I think you're at the wrong place, boy," and stuff like that. I think it took a negative spin. So I just wanted to get your take on that, where something that could have been funny um, goes dark, and is there a place for that? Like
Here's the love. Here's the honor. If you can't come in her, come on her. Yeah! Yeah! Hey, you lost, boy? No, I'm going to the race. What race? NASCAR race. You going to NASCAR? Yes, sir. A little bit. You ain't lost, did you? No, I'm good. I'm going to the race, sir. You sure about that? Yes, sir. Find something safe to do, boy.
if you haven't seen it, we don't have to get into it.
I haven't. I
Yeah,
haven't, but you got to be careful. But yeah, I, I haven't seen it, and I don't know. But I have worked with years ago in Cleveland. A guy opened for me. Sometimes as a headliner, you go to these clubs and they pick a local person that you don't know. A lot of the comedians these days bring people with them
right. Yeah.
so they know. I didn't have that luxury. I didn't have the money to bring somebody across. So this guy opened and he was a racist comedian. And he said the N word over and over
Damn.
and told these jokes. And what was mind-boggling was not so much that he was a racist, but that the audience was laughing hysterically at these jokes. That was more mind-boggling to me than the fact that this guy did it, because anybody can be a racist, but you got a whole audience of people who are clapping and cheering for
Right.
this.
Yeah. That's
So the owner of the club must have also sanctioned that type of behavior because when I complained, he fired me.
oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's
So it was one of those things. It's as mind-boggling as what's going on now with Israel,
yeah.
that so many people are taking the side of Hamas. They're evil, murder, rapists, child killers, and people are clapping and you know. So
It,
it's
that blows my mind that we're living in the times like this where you know it's being allowed, so to speak, the blatant racism, especially like you said
yeah.
with the Hamas and Israel stuff going on there. And I know I've seen videos of like even with Jerry kind of being attacked verbally, before shows and things like that.
Jerry Seinfeld has shut down a group of pro-Palestinian hecklers at his Melbourne gig, the latest in a string of disruptions during the comedian's Aussie tour. The 70-year-old clapped back at protesters for paying to attend his show.
I think you need to go back and tell who's ever running your organization. We just gave more money to a Jew. That cannot be a good plan for you.
They were at the show. They were at the show the other day. They didn't come in, but there were outside a couple of them with signs and the Palestinian flags. I was with them when they were marching outside, and yeah, we love Israel. Jerry's been. I've been with him twice to Israel. We performed there to 17,000 people each show.
Wow, yeah.
I'm going in November with my wife for 2 weeks to a wedding there and to tour the country and do some shows there. And we're not surprised that Hamas acts the way they do. What we're surprised is that people in America, that within an hour, 100,000 people are marching for Hamas. That's what's shocking.
It's shocking, especially when you see fellow Jewish people marching or gays marching for this. I don't think they understand
No.
that they're not going to be rewarded for this if things go their way.
You are 100% right. Gays for Gaza. If they only understood that when they went there, they would hang them by their feet out a window and then drop them.
Yeah.
They don't get it. So they have the wrong type of chutzpah.
When the world is divided like it is, and we're all in our own little bubble, so I feel like it's getting better. But I feel like the last decade has been really there's been a lot of division, whether it's from the internet and social media or what is causing it. Like, is it the presidents or whatever? But how do you maintain being funny through challenging times like this, where it is like if you get on stage, you don't know if there's a Hamas supporter in the audience who's going to yell at you, or you don't know if someone's going to bum rush the stage and try to attack you like they did with like Chappelle or something for his trans jokes. So like, is this par for the course?
Only one I'm worried about the only one I'm worried about attacking me on stage is my wife. Because if I keep doing material on her the way I'm doing it, she's going to charge me with a bat one day while I'm on stage and just conk me in the back of the head, just yelling, "Enough! Enough with the wife jokes! I can't take it anymore! My God, you're earning a living off of making fun of me!" We are not worried about these psychos. We have a job to do to make people laugh. That's it. We're very focused on one thing: entertaining the people that paid to get in. That's all we care about. And proof of that is when they did start yelling at Jerry's concerts, everybody started booing those people and they chased them out very quickly. Right. We're not concerned about that at all. Now, we do have people sitting on the side of the stage with submachine guns, so that's a whole other thing.
Keep an order.
Yeah. No, all kidding aside, we're not worried about any of that stuff. We have a job to do. We're very old-fashioned entertainers, just like Jay Leno, just like all the guys that came before us. All we care about... Before I go on, like the other night at Caesars, I said to Jerry, I'm going up. I'll see you later. And he goes, "Have a great show." And sometimes he'll go, "All right, don't screw it up this time." Which is the same thing. He's just wishing me, and he loves following me when I kill him.
Right.
People say, they go, does he mind that you do so well? No, he wants the best possible show. He doesn't want a guy going before him that just died on stage and he's got to dig himself out of a hole before he says his first thing.
Right, yeah.
So no, we're very focused. Make them laugh. That's it. And we're not teachers. We're not trying to teach them anything, or we're not historians giving them a talk about Hamas and the Middle East.
Right.
It's not our concern when we have the shows to do.
And that's it. And that's why people go to the shows, because they want to laugh. They want to enjoy their lives. They want some levity in their own day. And
this
isn't
this isn't Face the Nation they're coming to see here,
Right.
NBC National News. They're coming to see two Jews telling jokes.
And God bless, because the you guys are doing a great, fantastic job. And
Thank you.
yeah, and
About time you told me that.
I know you've been waiting for a long time for me to tell you that.
Years,
So.
years. I said, when is this guy going to finally say you're doing a good job, Mark? Finally, if you pray hard enough, eventually it can happen.
It all comes true.
Thank you, God. Thank you. Finally.
There's one more thing before I let you go that I do want to talk about, and it's just because I love the idea and the
The
philosophy behind.
homosexual thing? The homosexual
Yeah,
thing?
that's the next question after this one.
Okay.
I was saving that for the end.
Hey, twice doesn't make me a homosexual. It's an experiment.
Yeah, right. That's yeah. It's but they say if you build 1,000 bridges, but yet do one homosexual act, you're always known as a homosexual.
Yeah, that's right.
But the philosophy behind the why not, the two words that could change your life. You mentioned it in your book, and it's the title of your book. When I read it, it actually gave me the goosebumps because I do believe that the why not is an important thing that a lot of people, who don't take chances, I think that basically that's saying, why not? Just take the chance, just do it. So take me through that philosophy of the title of your book.
So why not? Actually, interesting enough, it's the answer to so many things in order to grow. If you say no to something, it stops right there. There's certain things you need to say no to, but so before I even started doing stand-up comedy, I saw Rodney and I thought, why not? Why not give it a chance one day? And then I wrote some jokes, and I never wrote jokes before. I said, why not give it a shot? So those two words can open up a world that you never knew existed. So when my book came around and we came up with the title, so what happened was during COVID, I had never written a book by myself like this. So I thought COVID hit. I don't know how long I'm going to be out of work as a comedian. Maybe it could be a month. We none of us knew. It could be 2 months, 3 weeks, and 2.5. So I thought, why not write a book while I'm here? Because I'm home every day. I'm a writer. I have no place to do jokes. And I started writing. I wrote every day, 6 hours a day.
Wow.
And I finally, I knew an agent in New York, a book agent, a literary guy named Murray Weiss, another Jew. And I called him up and I said, you want to read it? And you know what he said? Why not? That's what he said. And he read the book. And then he calls me a couple of weeks later and says, I read the book. I think there might be something here. Are you interested in me trying to help you put it together? And I said, why not? Anyway, to belabor the point, we went to 36 different, he sent it to 36 publishers. We got like 30 rejections. Finally, he calls me and says, these people at Apollo Publishing are interested. Do you want to set up a meeting? I go, why not? And here it is. So if I would have said during COVID, nah, I'm not going to write a book. I'm just going to wait this out and see what happens. It wouldn't have happened. And this book went on to be not only a good seller, but people really were moved by it. It's funny, it's moving, it tells my Jewish history, about my life and my parents. And I'm proud of it. Was it a bestseller, like, huge? No. But I'm very happy I wrote it. It was just a great experience. It all came from why not. And listen, it's the same thing with my wife. I'm married 35 years. When I first met her, why not? Let's give this a chance.
Yeah.
So it's those two words. Saying yes to life is my motto. Say yes to life. Somebody asks you to do something, if you can, say yes. You never know what's going to happen.
I think a lot of good things come out of saying yes or saying why not, and just taking a chance or just doing it, getting out there and why not?
Absolutely. No way. It's the end.
Yep.
So
that's a great positive message, and that's why I just wanted to
thank you
to have it on here, because I think that's It's powerful, and I love that it's just as simple as two words, and it could
Yeah.
change your life if you just take a chance.
Yeah, it's all about taking a chance, and because the head will tell you not to take a chance. You have to find a way to override your thinking. She's too pretty. She's never going to go out with me. It's crazy. So
Gotta have that chutzpah.
chutzpah,
Chutzpah.
yeah. Are you circumcised?
I am, yes.
All right, so you're halfway there.
Definitely halfway there.
Yeah.
I actually do have my great grandmother converted. She married into a Jewish man, and she converted the Schlangers family. And I have cousins and everything. So on Thanksgivings, we would all. It's the only holiday we all celebrate together. Is Thanksgivings,
Wow.
and in New Jersey, and I would go there and be with my kind of Jewish side of the family. So I'm
The
kind
Schlanger,
of
the Schlangers.
the Schlangers. Yep.
Do you know a word? Do you know a Yiddish word for penis is?
No, is it really?
It's very close to Schlanger. I'm serious. Schlong.
Schlong, yes.
Have you heard the word?
I've heard the word schlong before, yes.
He's got some schlong on him. So Schlanger and schlong, very
Yeah,
close.
very
my friend.
close, and that makes a lot of sense for my family. Mark, this has been a true honor and a pleasure, sir. I hope to have you back on the show. I would love to just, continue talking with you about
That's never going to happen.
and I'll just continue watching your podcast you have going over there.
We will. We'll talk
we-
again, but
we
don't
think-
forget my podcast, We Think It's Funny with Danny Lobel on Spotify and Apple. We have some great guests on, guests that you can't get. So,
That's true. I've seen some of the guys you had on there.
but then again, Bill Maher has on every guest I want, and I can't get any of them. So there's always another level of
Right.
someone to like snuff the hell out of you. So anyway, all kidding aside, you were terrific. You're a great host. My book here is Why Not? Lessons on Comedy. That's me at my bar mitzvah.
Oh,
That's my
very
bar mitzvah.
nice.
I got my little yarmulke on. There's parents, and then you had Rich Scheidner on. I killed.
Yes, Rich
This
Scheidner.
became the Bible for a lot of young comedians. They didn't know what the road was. This little book here.
That's a great book. And all those stories were told by those guys,
Yeah.
and they kind of sent you those in like essays, right? So it's
And
pretty
then we
awesome.
edited and rewrote, and
Yeah.
then we sent it to them for their approval.
It's an awesome book. I read that. I love reading about those days, and I love all the comedy, and that is a great book. I urge people to get both of those, especially if you love comedy. Get them both. It's just
Give a
great stuff.
copy to the Schlongers.
Yeah, I'll give a copy to the Schlongers who are watching. Shout out to the Schlong family. How you guys doing today? Mark, Mark Schiff, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Everybody, please follow Mark on all his social medias and definitely the podcast he's got going on. And if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to see him out and about on tour,
Go to markschiff.com and go to dates, and all my dates are on there. So if you want to come and heckle me, or Hamas members want to come and make amends to me, please, I'm there.
there you go. Mark Schiff, everyone.